It is Fertile Ground on MFM 92.6. We are moving to the music and the song there is Another Day. It is taken from the Black Is album. It's just gone 15 minutes past 6, and as we said, time for us to get into what we call the Stellenbosch Community Roundup, where we take a look at what is some of the community-based initiatives that is happening in and around our community. It's all part of the grand, big transformation journey that the university is on. It has been rocked by recent events that have taken place at the university, and that is going to be much of the focus point of today's discussion, as has been the discussion across the country. Many of us have been engaging across various platforms around the incident that has taken place at the university that has really spotlighted violent racism that continues to plague the Stellenbosch community. So that is the focus of our conversation on Siyakhulalive today. We are joined in studio by Uthandi Wingligwe. She is a student leader at the university. How are you doing? I mean, it's been a difficult and draining week.
I can't believe I feel nonchalant about it. In that it is India's Mare has kind of it just highlights it. It highlighted a very, very real and prevalent issue in Stellenbosch. As you heard in the Brave Space, someone was saying they've experienced racism since the first day they entered this town, and they're not lying. And that's such a universal Black experience in Stellenbosch, whether one is aware or not, where like that racism is happening to them, So I think my reflection is just that I love that it's highlighted again, and I love that it's getting so much media attention.
This is your favorite campus and community station. This is your favorite campus and community station. MFM 92.6. Move to the music.
So on today's show, we, as we like to do, we are checking in with our communities. We are looking at what are some of the smart and transformative things that are happening in and around us. And Kayamandi being the first smart township in South Africa. It brings us to our diversity dialogue and our community roundup on Siyakhulalive. I'm very excited to be learning new concepts, new ideas from people who know a little bit better than I do. We're joined in studio by Wesley Dipoko, who is the founder of Uluntu. They'll tell us a lot more about that. We're talking smart townships today. Thank you so much for joining us, and a warm welcome to you. And also a big thing, you are the founder of Uluntu. What is Uluntu?
So Uluntu is a platform that we are currently developing with a couple of people in Kaimandi.
Yeah.
And we hope more will be joining us. And it's really an environment that we are developing, not just for Kaimandi Township, but for other townships across South Africa. My thinking is that townships ought to have a virtual existence. So yes, they exist in the physical space, but they ought to have a virtual existence. They ought to exist online. So Uluntu is a platform that will be designing to enable that, to enable people to have access to education, to health services, to government services online, to trade online.
Like I haven't imagined townships as having a virtual presence.
Yeah.
This is your favorite campus and community station. MFM 92.6. Move to the music.
Over the Rainbow by Eric Clapton. One more car, one more rider. And that is how we get into our dialogue this evening, and courtesy of our guest who also shared that song with us and said, let's sprinkle some magic on the show this evening. We're joined by distinguished Professor Jonathan Jansen in the Faculty of Education at Stellenbosch University, as we also look into our university community, as we make sense of the Commission of Inquiry, the Gampepe report, and start to just detangle some of those elements of the report. Let me start with your reactions to the Gampepe report and the events that led up to the Commission of Inquiry at Stellenbosch University.
Yeah, as you know, there was the case of the white student urinated on the black student's property in the same residence in which they live. As you can imagine, that caused quite a lot of outrage in the broader community amongst both white and black Stellenbosch students. And the university's response was, let's look at this incident, but also let's look beyond it. Is there something deeper that we're not addressing in terms of institutional culture, racism, and the like? We mustn't, as South Africans or as the Stellenbosch community, deal with racism on an issue-by-issue basis. And it's very clear that there's a lot of alienation, there's a lot of estrangement, there's a lot of disaffection with the university.
As a previous prof who's just joined us now, Prof. Jansen, was saying, we need to create spaces for dialogue and reflection, and Siyakhulalive is just one of those platforms. And joining us to do just that, Prof. Sandy Liebenberg, who joins us, distinguished professor, the H.F. Oppenheimer Chair in Human Rights Law at Stellenbosch University. Prof. Sandy, thank you so much for making time to chat to us this evening.
It's a great pleasure, and thanks so much for inviting me.
And I mean, Prof, from the law faculty as well, as I record, one of the events or incidents, as we can just call it, just for simplicity, the law dance, and also, Tien Stutoi from the law faculty, so as a law student. So I'm sure there was some reflections that the law faculty also just came to as how, some of these events really come or emerge from our own students in the law environment.
Yes, I think there needs to be much more of this, and I think the testimony of the law students before the Campepe report is something which really requires more reflection and more conversations. And I think what is really important that comes out of the report is that often the processes tend to be very bureaucratic, hierarchical, functioning in silos, and at least for me, as a member of the transformation of the faculty committee, it really speaks to me about the need to create non-hierarchical spaces where staff and students can really interact and the voices can be heard.
Prof, thank you so much for your time this evening and for your sharing so generously with us. I think we're going to be resonating and thinking over some of your insights for a little bit longer.
Move to the music. Right here on MFM 92.6.
That is incredible music, not just any music, incredible music on MFM 92.6. We're moving to the music of Anane Vega, Music and Life. It's taken from the 2 Beats, 1 Soul album. It's how we start the show today. Tomorrow is also World AIDS Day commemorations, which is an opportunity for people worldwide to unite in the fight against HIV, to show support for people living with HIV, and to commemorate those who have lost their lives from AIDS-related illnesses. The theme for this year's commemoration is Equalize, to urge us all to address the inequalities which are holding back the efforts to eradicate HIV and AIDS. Also, as we speak, the world gathers in 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And to chat to us this evening, very humbled to have our guest join us today, Dr. Munya Saruchera, who is the Senior Lecturer and Director at the Africa Center for HIV and AIDS Management in the World of Work at the university's Faculty of Economic and Management Sciences. And I know that the center has focused this year's World AIDS Day commemoration on communities, on family and friends. Tell us a little bit about this focus and why it has been important to direct the focus of this year's commemorations on communities.
UNAIDS, which is the United Nations body that is specifically addressing and looking at the issues of HIV and AIDS, their theme is equalize and integrate because of the inequalities that have been seen between genders, between social classes, between regions, between the different spheres of life where the inequalities have been observed. And then with regards to us, we decided that particularly following the last 2.5, 3 years now of COVID, the focus has been so much on COVID-19 to an extent that all the leadership, attention, resources, and the human side has been focused so much on COVID-19, so much that HIV and AIDS, which I would call the other pandemic, has kind of been forgotten. Also does arise and new things and issues emerge, from the treatment side of things, from the social side of things in terms of stigma and discrimination leading to mental health and other challenges, which then also alter health-seeking behaviors, which then also alter, some of the issues and challenges. Those are social pandemics on which basis that HIV, TB, COVID and other pandemics are happening on top of that. So let us not forget about it. And so let's make it personal. Let's make it about ourselves. Let's make it about our friends. Let's make it about our families. And let's make it about our communities.
That was Dr. Monya Saruchera, who joins us from the center. It is award-winning radio, 5 minutes to 7.
This is your favorite campus and community station. Campus and community station. MFM 92.6.
I'm so excited because our guest this evening has brought this song closer to us. It is Letlogonolo, advocate Letlogonolo Mokorane, who joins us on the line this evening. Letlogonolo is a queer rights activist, a scholar, a lawyer, and a phenomenal human being, really. Letlogonolo, thank you for joining us and welcome to Siyakhulalive. And that's a bomb song that you've brought closer to us, Letlogonolo.
I mean, alien superstar,
Yo.
you know. But I mean, it's Beyonce, so what can we say? Greatness only.
Now, on the show today, we are talking about queer rights as human rights, and language then becomes such a it can either be a bridge or it can be a divider. So how do we use language, bridge understanding between communities, whether or whether you grew up in a rural village? So how can language around identity and the terminology also be a bridge between different kinds of communities?
I think firstly to know that language is created. So oftentimes you hear this retort that, queerness is an African because what do you call that in our language? But we didn't know what window was in Setswana or in isiZulu, right? But we created that language. So for me, when you talk about language as a bridge, is that knowing that language is ever evolving and that so we can create language in order to make people feel comfortable in their traditions, in their cultures, in their communities. Often language, particularly in the queer context, is used to ostracize queer people. But everything is created. But when you want to dehumanize people, you start taking that same language and saying no. So I think that what we should begin to do is use language to be more inclusive, right? I think the kind of pronoun conversation and how I often tell people, I'm like, for me, when you ask someone what is a pronoun, you essentially are saying to them, I do not know you unless you tell me who you are. And it is in your words that I want to know.
The best music and the best presenters. This is MFM 92.6. Move to the music.
And it brings us to our next feature, which is our brand new feature, Research for Impact. And that's what we'll be doing now and again on the show, really just recognizing the amazing research that is happening, not only in and around campus, but also, in and around us, really. And today we are joined by such a researcher, Dr. Trust Phokwa, who is sitting across from me right now. He is the CEO of Utamu Foods. We learn all about that. A recent graduate, so also a Mati, a recent graduate with a PhD in food science from the university, going back to the basics that we know, right? We're chatting to Dr. Trust Phokwa. I heard a very interesting term, and I'd like you to maybe just unpack it for us. Afro food renaissance. What is that all about?
Yeah, so when we talk about Afro food renaissance, it's going back to the African foods which we know. Oh,
okay.
Yeah, so we just mentioned earlier that for us to actually reclaim our culture, for us to actually put a stop to an increase in some of these non-communicable diseases that you see, we actually have to make a conscious effort in terms of what we're choosing to eat and how we are approaching that whole aspect.
So it sounds like it's a movement. It's a movement that's happening.
It's a movement.
Okay.
Yeah. So when we talk of Renaissance, it's arts going back to what we knew.
Okay.
So even us as Utamu, our theme is a return to innocence.
Right.
Where we have less additives in your food.
And abundance.
MFM 92.6. Move to the music.
We open up to our diversity dialogue this evening, and I'm very, very glad I have a friend and colleague on the line who's joining us to talk about something that I've been wanting to talk about for some bit of time. We've got Dr. Claire Kelly on the line with us. She's the Senior Advisor of Advocacy and Research at Stellenbosch University's Equality Unit, and we are talking about working moms this Workers' Month. Claire, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining us and making time.
Hi, Kat. Well, thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me.
And I want to start by saying, firstly, let us all on Siyakhulalive just honor you as well as a working woman of our society and a working mother of our society as well. Women are suffering a silent injustice and discrimination for being women and for being mothers as well.
Yeah, and I think it's because of what has become normalized as the expectations that fall on, on women and specifically mothers. It's this, and particularly this trope of the super mom, the
sure, at whose expense?
Do everything, she's got kids, she can have a career. And actually that trope is so deeply problematic because what it does is that it kind of glamorizes, valorizes, and normalizes the idea of the complete overwhelm and overwork and basically exploitation of mothers' labor, and sets this up as almost a cultural ideal, and it's not because those women are probably like me, medicated up to the eyeballs, and really having to sacrifice.
This is your favorite campus and community station. MFM 92.6. Move to the music.
It is J.R. Esterhazen, who's the former Golden Lions rugby player and consultant at the Marshies Gym. J.R., nice to finally have you in studio. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Kat. Thanks for having me. It's awesome being here.
For a lot of people, sport becomes the thing to do. It becomes a home. It becomes something that, from whatever background it is, sport becomes something that they can immerse themselves in.
Yeah, definitely. I can agree to that because for me, sport was definitely like a type of escape.
And how hard is it? I mean, it must take obviously it does take an incredible amount of discipline, an incredible amount of sacrifice and hard work as well. Maybe tell us a little bit about it so that people also get a sense, of its.
Listen, Kat, to be honest, like if, I'm sure you understand how it is. Like if you love something, man, and you do it, it's like, it's not work, it's not hard work, So for me, it became something that I knew it's something that I love. The amount of rugby balls I went through as a youngster, there was many balls, but so I mean, like it takes time, and it takes years of training, and just honing your craft, depending what type of sport you do.
There's a story for you. We're chatting to JR. I'm going to give you there we go. We're chatting to J.R. Esterhazen, who is the former Golden Lions rugby player.